The Living Zen-podcast is a gift from the members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre to you. If you enjoy it, please be sure to let your friends know about Living Zen. If you'd like to support our community, download the Living Zen-podcast app for iPod, iPhone, and Android. One of the most meaningful ways to show your support is by becoming a part of our Sangha as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen podcast and our online e-Zendo will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also available for free on our website to all members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
I was just going to ask your follow-on, which was you posted on Facebook about pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. I said, it's the beginning of some ideas, more to come. So is this kind of part of the more to come in your life?
No, the more to come is a total insanity that I wouldn't want to drag anyone on except for myself. So in September, I got this idea for pilgrimage. This whole thing, like I said, this whole sort of getting out there and walking just sort of kind of sent me off on this thing. So September, I initiated this idea of doing a pilgrimage from Victoria to Souk. So there's going to be about a 40-kilometer walk along the Galloping Goose because the Goose comes out basically right beside the Zen Center. So then I after talking with a bunch of people, the idea of pilgrimage really resonated with a lot of people. And it really resonates with me. So I started to look at sort of like what pilgrimages there are, right? And so, there's the Camino, right, which is utterly Catholic and has no resonance for me whatsoever. And then, of course, there's one in Japan called the Shikoku pilgrimage, which is around a small island where there's 88 temples, and, it's a path. 88 temples, yeah. That's a lot of temples. That's a lot of temples, yeah. But I kept going, why? Why do I have to go somewhere, right? So I started looking at Vancouver Island because I feel really connected to this place. And I wanted to do something here. And so I said, what could I possibly do that on the island? What's around the island, right? And so lately I've been having a lot of sort of, First Nations contacts, basically. And so I got this I said, well, what about First Nations? What do they look like on the island? And I got this map of the First Nations on the island, and it's a pilgrimage route. It's like they're dotted all the way around the coast, around the whole island. So I was like, whoa, that's kind of heavy, right? And then I was like, but I don't know anything about First Nations, so I got to sort of do some research. So I was at the Canada Day celebration in Ladysmith. Was it Ladysmith? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ladysmith. And so I was looking at this map, and I'm trying to figure out, how would you even do that pilgrimage, right? And then I'm looking at this one particular First Nation called Hesquiat, and it's up by Tofino, kind of. And I'm going, that place is in the middle of nowhere. How would you get there? And I literally look up, and there's this guy walking by, a big First Nations dude with a coat on that says Hesquiat. And so I go, okay, that's weird. That's too weird for me to sort of pass up, right? So I go over and I say, hey, how's it going? He says, my name's Vince. And I said, I explained the whole thing. I'm thinking about doing this pilgrimage, but I want to talk to people from the First Nations to get permission and stuff like that. And he says, oh yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with you doing something like that. And he explains you can get water taxis and all this kind of stuff, and he gives, he says you can connect with me on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And it kind of sticks in my head that what he said was, I wouldn't have any problem with you doing that. So I'm kind of going who is this guy? And it turns out that he's one of the 5 hereditary chiefs of the Hesquiat Nation, right? So I'm just that's too weird, man. So I'm just kind of following that, although I'm still sort of clarifying why on earth I want to do that, and I'm still sort of figuring out if it's even possible. But that's kind of where I'm going. And then this weekend we went out to Avatar Grove in Port Renfrew, and I realized that there's another one that I think I want to do next year, which is from Souk to Port Renfrew to Lake Cowichan, and then back down to Souk. And I figure that'll take about 10 days, so that'd be fun. But that's kind of...
So the insane one would be
the whole island is just, yeah. I have no idea. No idea.
You couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, what's that?
You can't do it.
Oh, I don't think it's...
Because the coast, like a profile, is like that.
Yeah, but I don't have any... like, I'm not looking at this like I need to walk the whole thing, you know. So
how far stretches in between you? Have you kind of mapped this out? Like how far in between so from point A to point B every day, how far are you thinking? Like
probably 30 kilometers a day I can do. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of tribal journeys?
Vince Ambrose was talking to me about it, I think.
It's like a thing they still do. It was actually started by Roy Henry Vickers.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. Yeah, it had something to do with like drug and alcohol rehabilitation.
Yeah.
It's like they do a trip every year, and they start at one end, and then one band will go to the next band, and they do it with canoes.
Yeah.
And they actually canoe, and they bring all these kids and stuff at youth risk and stuff, and they bring them up, and then they do all these traditional things, like they ask to enter the land, and then they're welcomed in, and then each place the people actually like feed them, so it's kind of similar like type thing.
Yeah.
And so they go, and they canoe pretty far actually. They go from like, some of them go from like up Northern Ireland down to like Seattle.
Yeah, this is, I mean, for me, I've sort of like, in talking with Vince, I'm like 2015 is probably what I'm looking at, because because I'm not First Nations, so it's really important to me that I have permission before I even like actually think about doing anything. So that's my insanity right now. So, but part of it for me is really, a big part of it for me is really looking at. I think, you know, I sound so crazy about this, but it's like I had some dreams about this, and part of it is that our community is at the point now where we're starting to look at purchasing property and providing like an actual community here, and I feel like this in some way is a way of getting permission to do that from the first people here, so that's kind of...
Do it on the proposed Enbridge pipeline.
That might be risky.
Yeah. That's even crazier than this.
It would be cleared out. So you could actually
Perfectly flat. Yeah. I'll just wait till it's built, and then I'll walk right on the pipeline. Yeah.
As part of the marketing committee, you know, if we want to raise visibility of the Zen Center.
It's kind of Claude Angeli Thomas.
I can't really explain it. Like, this is, I have a real problem with it, because there's a part of me that, you know, that I'm thinking about it a lot, and then every once in a while I go, are you crazy? Because this is crazy. So, but I don't know. I'm just following it.
So next year, are you planning to do the 10-day? Is that something that's in the?
Well, I'm like 2 days into the contemplation of it, but yeah, it seems pretty feasible to me. Yeah. Why, you want to come?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I think I'd love to.
Yeah.
For sure. And next year it'll give me enough time for vacation and shit.
All right. Well, we can talk. If there's anyone else who wants to join in, let me know. It's a fun time. Yes, silence. What's that?
I just said I knew.
I could see
Yeah,
5,
that kind of stuff.
as long as you don't start before 9 in the morning.
9. I go at like...
Yeah. So anyway, that's my craziness.
I think
So
it's time to wrap it up. We can all dream about
walking.
great walking and
Running.
so on. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.